Hey everybody, it's Shu. So there's a deck that everyone's been talking about after David Williams took it to a top 8 finish at the Pro Tour, and it put up the highest win rate of any of the decks that were played there. Everyone's talking about it. People are calling it the best deck in Standard. The deck that I'm talking about is Bant Turbofog, so I wanted to put it together in Arena and give it a try. So let's take a look at what's inside. Turbofog decks use fog effects, cards that prevent combat damage. The original one was called Fog, and they use them a lot to be able to get to big game-ending effects. The original one used Howling Mine, which caused people to draw extra cards, and that was the turbo of Turbofog. The idea being that you would make the opponent deck out while you used fog effects to stop them from hurting you. This one doesn't do the turbo element of it, but everyone's still calling it Turbofog. Instead, it aims for taking lots of extra turns and then wiping people out by taking out all their permanents and then killing them with an army of robots. So let's take a look at what's inside. We got 4 Chart a Course, and 2 Search for Escanta, and also 2 Secrets of the Golden City. The plan here is that drawing cards is really important. Getting to the certain cards is incredibly important. In the early to mid game, you want to keep getting to your fog effects to protect yourself, and in the late game, you want to keep getting to your extra turns so that you can close out the game and you don't get blown out by the great big board that's been building while you refuse to interact with them. So lots of card draw is really important. And then we've got our fog effects, Haze of Pollen and Root Snare. They are exactly the same, except Haze of Pollen has cycling, so it's strictly better. Though you're probably not going to use the cycling very much, and by the time you do, you're probably winning the game. Because it's really more important to have the fog to prevent the combat damage. By the time you're cycling, you're not worried about combat damage, you have control of the game, and the cycling probably is triggering Teferi's Emblem to exile something. So we've got Gifts of Paradise. Gift of Paradise not only gives us a little more room with our life to take a few more hits, it accelerates our mana, and it plays really nicely with Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, because his +1 can untap lands, so we try to untap the lands that have Gift of Paradise on them so that we're effectively getting 2 mana out of each of his untaps. So we're running 4 of these, and we like it. Glimmer of Genius, more card draw, 2 Karn, Sign of Urza. I've seen lists that run 4. There's a variety of these lists going around. I'm running the David Williams list because I haven't played this deck a lot. I don't think I'm a better Magic player than David Williams. We're running the 2 Karns. Karn is our finisher, so we try not to run him out there just willy-nilly until we're ready to take over the game. If it's a desperation play, then we can do it. But he will draw cards, he'll filter cards, that's great and everything. The real reason we're playing him is because of his -2, being able to create those little robots, the Karn Structs, if you will, and those are going to be the guys that punch through and end the game for us. Then we've got Mirari Conjecture. We're just running 1. The idea here is we can use it to bring back one of our fog effects. We can use it to bring back some of our card draw, and that gives us just that little extra bit of help. And then when we get to the third part, the copying spells, we really want to use that for card draw and for taking extra turns. We want to bank several extra turns so that we can really just take control of the game and put it away. Mirari Conjecture is pretty great. Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, I don't know what to say about him that hasn't been already said. He's Superman. Does everything we want. We draw cards, he untaps lands, it works really nice with Gift of Paradise because we can effectively untap more mana, and the -3 helps because it's the only thing that even really looks like removal, other than, I guess, Karn's Temporal Sundering, which you'll play once ever. But Teferi's great, and Teferi is very likely to hit his emblem, and when he hits his emblem, that's when you start taking over the game and start taking extra turns, wipe out what they have, and then create room for Karn to finish the game. Speaking of Karn, Karn's Temporal Sundering, we're running 1 of. It's one of our extra turn effects. Since it's a legendary sorcery, you can only cast it if you have a legendary creature or planeswalker. In our case, we're not running any creatures, so just planeswalkers. But it's not too hard to have a planeswalker out and then be ready to cast Karn's Temporal Sundering, because Fog is going to help protect our guys. If we can use that when Mirari Conjecture goes off, then we really like it, because then we can take extra turns and we can bounce multiple things to an opponent's hand. That's pretty cool. Then we go to Nexus of Fate, the slightly more expensive one, but take an extra turn, and if it's put in the graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into the deck. That means when it resolves, shuffle it into the deck. If it's countered, shuffle it into the deck. You're forced to discard it, shuffle it into the deck. It's milled, shuffle it into the deck. This thing doesn't go away, and the fact that it just keeps going back into the deck is what allows us to take the ridiculous amount of extra turns that are going to put away the game for us. Now, this card is the reason that I think we're going to see a split in the meta between Magic Arena and Paper Magic, because Nexus of Fate is a buy-a-box promo. You only get a copy of it buying a box at a store, and that means there's a very limited amount of them, and they are incredibly expensive. And now that they've proven themselves in a Pro Tour deck, they're only going to get more expensive. In Arena, just costs a Mythic wildcard like anything else. That jank 10-drop red Mythic costs just as much as Nexus of Fate. So I think you're going to see a lot more Turbofog in Arena than you will in Paper Magic. And that's going to be interesting because I think it's really going to push people away from aggro in a way that you're not going to see in Paper Magic. I kind of like having that there. I like that the Arena meta is so incredibly aggro heavy right now that having a deck that just like poops all over them is really great. And the fact that we can get cards to do that makes me pretty happy in a way that we wouldn't be able to do in Paper Magic. I think it's kind of funny that the regular sort of course of action in Standard right now is to be the best at not interacting with your opponent. All these aggro decks have been very popular because they can just win without interacting. The mono-red and red-black versions, they just, with all the haste, all the ways that they interfere with blocking, all it tries to do as little as it can to interact with you. Just swing past your guys, shoot you in the face, and leave you to be the one who has to interact. And responses to that deck have tried to sort of do the same thing. Like God Pharaoh's Gift sort of non-interacts in a way that can go over that. And Bant Turbofog non-interacts in a way that can just weather out the storm and then eventually play by themselves, taking 10 turns in a row. I don't think that's super healthy for Magic, but it's a fun deck to play. And maybe after seeing how much the non-interaction is just defining Standard right now, maybe we'll see, I don't know, some better design decisions down the line. Anyway, that is the deck. Let's take a look at the land base real quick. We got 4 island, 4 forest. Note that there's no plains. All our white mana comes from 3 glacial fortress and 4 irrigated farmland. Then we have 4 Scattered Grove, 2 Sun Petal. Oh yeah, there's 2 more white there. Botanical Sanctum and Hinterland Harbor. You'll notice that there are 8 cycle lands. They come in tapped, which is a little bit of a pain, but being able to cycle is super important because, like I said before, we want to get to our draw, we want to get to our fog effects, and in the late game, we want to be able to continue to chain our extra turns. So being able to cycle lands is really valuable, and we'll be doing it a whole lot. So that's the deck. Let's watch it in action. So the original plan was I was going to show you a lot of games through Quick Constructed, but oh my god, these games take so long. People just sit there and they let you take 10 turns in a row, they let you exile all their stuff, and then eventually kill them. They don't concede, and that's frustrating. So instead, we're just going to show a few games spit up so that you can sort of get an idea of what the deck does without having to wait through these incredibly long games. Based on what the opponent is playing, I think that they are probably playing a paradoxical outcomes kind of deck, where they're going to be mono blue, play a ton of artifacts that will make Karn Strux really big, and if that doesn't kill me, they'll probably try to set up a combo with paradoxical outcomes to bring a bunch of artifacts back to the hand, and then use Aetherflux Reservoir to shoot me in the face. So this is a little different. I think when people say that Bant Turbofog is the current best deck in Standard, they're talking about, they're not really, well, they're saying it's the best deck against the current Standard. And that's true, but I don't think that's the same thing as the best deck, because Bant Turbofog is really good against aggro, and we're seeing a lot of aggro but it's not very good against control and decks that have control elements of interaction. And I know that the Paradoxical Outcomes deck runs at least 4 counterspells, so we're in a little bit of a bind here. The fact that he left his mana open here suggests he has a counterspell, but we're running a Teferi into it anyway because we're going to have to exhaust them, and we have, you know, another Teferi in hand. So we don't want to throw away the things that we have fewer of. And those fog effects will matter, even though right now he hasn't been aggressive. Because once he gets to making constructs, we're going to want to fog a lot. This time we're not going to run out Teferi because he's still left up mana like he has counterspells. He probably does. So we're going to try to play out some things to bait those counterspells until we can stick Teferi. The fact that he's drawing tons of cards means it's going to be difficult. End of turn, we're going to try to draw some cards. Okay. We're taking Nexus here because we want something that will bait him into a counter, and with that win counter, it just reshovels back into the deck. Karn's Temporal Sundering would not, plus we have to resolve Teferi before we can ever play it, so, you know, it's worth just chucking for now. We're going to play Nexus and try to bait a counterspell. We got it. Fine with that, because it's going to go back into the deck. And that brings us that much closer to resolving Teferi. Once Teferi's out, then this thing really starts going. Hopefully we can get it going before he gets the Ether Flux Reservoir win condition going. I'm confident about our ability to survive against the army of constructs. But I'm not confident about having any sort of counterplay against Ether Flux Reservoir. We don't run counterspells. It's not really what we do. So we've got 3 mana here if he wants to Metallic Rebuke, so we can get past it. Looks like he wants to let it resolve. That's fine.
Show remorse. I'll show restraint. Let's skip to the good part.
And we'll just use some spare mana here to draw some more cards. And that eats a Metallic Rebuke. That's fine. We are happy to see it in the grave. So by untapping the land that has the enchantment on it, we are able to hold up more mana than we otherwise would. Okay, so yeah, he's doing this to make his constructs a lot bigger. Just play out a lot of artifacts, watch the robots get big. And that's a little bit rough for us because it means we have to play a fog effect when there's only 1 creature attacking, and I wouldn't want to do that normally. I'd just take the pain. But this time we're going to have to do it. Unfortunately, he didn't have another Metallic Rebuke where he would have, you know, caught us without mana for it.
Hold that thought.
We're going to have to... okay, I guess we don't have to now, but we're going to play Mirari, which you can conjecture to bring back one of those fog effects. He'll know that we have the one, but he won't know that we have another one in hand already. And plus it can go and fetch Chartacourse, which we had countered. And hopefully we will have extra turns ready when we get to the 3rd part of the saga. Okay, it seems like he doesn't have Metallic Rebuke at all because he just allowed us to resolve Karn. We're playing lands right now rather than cycling them because we have a couple fog effects to give us time, and we're going to have some expensive turns coming up. End of turn, Teferi untaps. We have enough mana for another fog effect. Okay, so there's one Paradoxical Outcome. That was not for a combo. That was just to dig deeper into the deck. He's trying to find his win conditions here. I think he might realize that he's going to have a rough time getting the constructs through. He's going to keep attacking with them, but he probably really wants that Ether Flux Reservoir to shoot us. He also managed to, you know, by bouncing Karn back to his hand, play him, and get to drive out some more Karn structs where he would otherwise have to waste turns, upping its loyalty again. So he's, you know, increasing the pressure on us. Fortunately, we still have these fog effects, and we can draw reasonably deep. 2 green, fog. Yep. So if we take Secrets of the City, then next turn we can cast it and draw 6 cards, and that'll be pretty sweet. Karn is going to dig for stuff. I'm surprised to see him give us a Teferi, but I guess he realizes that, you know, we've got one out. And that if the emblem goes off, he's probably going to lose anyway. We accidentally overtapped, but that's fine. Just spend that instead. Okay, we've got another fog. That's cool. And we'll get Azcanta out here to protect us. And with that, Teferi untaps 4 mana worth of lands right there.
There is great power in the things we make.
One thing that gets real obnoxious about playing this deck in Arena is that it really starts to slow down, and there's a whole lot of tapping you have to do. You're basically never going to get a lot of timeouts accrued because you're going to go to timer, tapping your mana and stuff a whole lot. They really need to improve the timer system. That said, I don't think the decisions in this deck are terribly intensive. There's obviously going to be a difference between somebody who plays the deck well and somebody who plays it badly, but I don't think it's like the most decision-intensive deck, really. So at this point, we're just trying to make sure that we have more fog effects and we can get to extra turns, especially extra turns because Mirari Conjecture is about to pop, and if we could get an extra turn effect off right now, that would be awesome. Yep. Okay, so what do we got?
Nothing is ever truly lost. Hurry.
I should have taken Secrets of the City and just cast that for the double rather than going for Glimmer of Genius, which is less return for more mana. But I wasn't thinking super straight. Still, hopefully 4 cards with 4 Scry 2 is going to be enough. And having another Charter Course will help us get there. The fact that Nexus is an instant means that even if we get it late, we could use it and play it at the end of the turn after Teferi untaps our lands. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to draw 4, discard 2. Okay, Karn's Temporal Sundering. That is a great card to see. And there he counters it, but we have a copy, so it's going to resolve anyway. I think it probably would have been better to do Karn's Temporal Sundering on our main phase, and then use the Teferi untap to play Nexus at the end of the turn. We would have got more value there. But pretty sure we're still going to win. Okay, so he's removing a ton of stuff from the field, going for the dig, but pretty sure he's going to be dead already anyway. So we can do this to set up our emblem. Target that. Get Karn out of the way.
known for my excellent fight. We need to move.
If we use the Teferi effects after we play Nexus, it gives us a chance to draw back into it because it shuffles into the deck. Okay, and if we stop here, well, we didn't. The smart thing would have been to use that end of turn to use as Kanta to dig for another Nexus, but it seems that we're good on this front at least. Point is, there's a lot of efficiency that you can eke out of this to play the deck better than other people. That turn I did not.
Keep up the pace.
But hey, not bad. So, stacking up a few extra here. Now we've got the Constructs going. They're going to get bigger and bigger.
Hold that thought.
Start eating up his lands.
Some solutions must be built.
Karn, we blew up the last one to make another Construct, and then we'll make another one so that these guys get bigger quickly, just in case we don't hit those extra turn effects. We've still got another one banked here, so we should be fine. Yeah, we're going to be fine. This game is done. Opponent could concede, but everyone wants to wait it out for some reason. And then we get ahead of ourselves and have to blow up one of the Ascantas. We should have left it as an enchant. It's not the end of the world. This game is over. But yeah, tighter play would have been good. And now we're going to kill the guy. Alright, not bad. And on to the next one. What do we got? Okay. It's a little awkward that we don't have white, but starting with Ascanta I think is really good, and we've got a fog effect. We will want to see Teferi in time. This is not a bad start. I have that watermark up at the corner. I had it in a previous video. The idea is just to block the name of whoever I'm playing. I don't know. I feel like it would be rude to put them on blast, showing them, you know, losing games and so forth. Everyone loses games. I lost 2 on the run through this. We played out that Sun Petal Grove, even though we don't have land to bring it in untapped, so that we'll have white mana ready when we get to that phase, and Teferi can come out. So this guy is playing an interesting variant of the mono black zombies. I haven't seen it with like the desert sub theme and everything. We kept the Glacial Fortress rather than graving it because we want to have 2 lands that provide white, because he has Field of Ruin, and this deck does not have a Plains. So we wanted to make sure that we have that extra white source so that we can reliably get Teferi next turn. Otherwise, we'd probably grave it and try to dig deeper into some more action. Alright, so Liliana's a bit of a challenge because her plus can remove our life total even when we're fogging combat. It doesn't care about fog. It's not combat damage. So at some point, Teferi will want to minus to tuck her back in the grave, probably. Okay, we're about to... Alright, no. Don't want to play that and have it come in tapped, because then we wouldn't have Teferi ready this turn.
I can no longer stand by and watch. You know what? I'm not done yet.
It's funny hearing their lines at speeded up pace like that. So yeah, Liliana's going to be a clock for us, even if we manage to just fog the creatures forever. We're going to have to tuck it away, or exile it, or just take infinite turns before it can kill us. one of the things I really don't want to see is like Never to Return or Vraska's Contempt, which are cards that run in some of the versions of the Mono Black Zombies. Like I said, this deck is about not interacting harder than the other person not interacts. So to that end, we are kind of screwed if, you know, people start blowing up our permanents. And that's why I think when this starts showing up in the meta a lot more, you're going to see more control decks showing up to defeat it. And that's why I don't like the term best deck in the meta that people are saying. It's the best deck for beating aggro, but when the field is less aggro, it's really quite bad. And I think because Nexus of Fate is something that is easily obtained in Arena and not in paper, you're going to see a lot more Turbofog in Arena, and that's going to drive away aggro for a while. And you're going to see more control. You're going to see control decks that beat up on it instead. And when that drives Turbofog back out, then we'll see aggro come back, and that'll probably keep going until we get something from Ravnica to shake things up. So I don't really feel like calling it the best deck in the meta is helpful. It's not. It doesn't say anything useful, basically. It's the best deck for running into a bunch of aggro decks and giving them nothing they can do for a while.
Our actions determine the course of history.
I'm actually a little bummed about making this just because I know that I'm going to contribute in my own small way to there being more Turbofog decks and more boring matches. And I like playing the deck, so you know, the longer it stays undercover, the more fun I'll get to have. But it's coming either way. Like, people are talking about this deck. It's showing up. It's going to be part of the meta. I can't make that not happen by not making videos. Like, I don't have that kind of reach. I don't have nearly that kind of audience.
Don't get squeamish on me.
So might as well have fun with it, make a fun video, and I guess once I start seeing more of it show up in the meta, I'm going to go switch over to probably Esper Control. Yep. There's another fog. Life total's a little slim right now, but just get this, oh, that's perfect. That is exactly what we want to see when Mirari Conjecture is going off. And then we can just get Teferi to his emblem and start exiling these threats.
Let's skip to the good part.
I'm a little squirrely about targeting with this because in previous runs I've been unable to target a non-land permanent to bounce because the game confuses targeting myself and the emote system. But yeah, we're going to take 2 extra turns. We bounced some things. We're going to start creating the robot army that's going to finish this game. And this is what I'm talking about. Lots of people just sit there and like timer for a while, even when they're not like being rude and trying to timer out. They just sit there and let this game grind on and on and on when they should probably just concede. Yeah, we don't need one of those now. We're just trying to dig to more extra turn effects at this point. Extra Teferi is nice because then we can just emblem and play the next one. So here comes one of our 2 banked extra turns. Once the opponent lets us have it. love that timer. There's got to be a better way. Okay. So we're transforming Escanta so we can dig up extra turn effects a little easier. I really like Escanta in this deck because you're running a lot of copies of the things you want to get. It's not like in Blue-White Control where you need really specific answers, and Escanta often draws you the wrong one. I feel like it's way stronger in this deck. Even though we're absolutely running it in both.
Right on schedule.
Okay, so we've got another Teferi out. Now we can start exiling his stuff. We've got a fog effect in hand, so we're not worried about his creatures right now. We're going to spend more time exiling his lands so that if we run out of extra turn effects, we can just fog his creatures and continue to end the game. Yeah, look at that. And we'll just draw some more stuff. Yeah, we just want extra turn effects here. At this point, the game is done. It's entirely done. Opponent should be conceding, but is not. Dropping those fog effects there because we've still got one in hand, and the cycle on them is more expensive than the cycle on the lands.
Awaken.
There we go. Everything he has is gone. And we have enough stuff to just kill him in 2 turns. We don't even have to do anything fancy. We'll just tuck Teferi away, and we'll start taking some extra turns, and that'll end it. One more turn. And there we go. Okay, and the next game. Ugh. There's not a lot of play in that hand, so we're going to throw it back. Okay, that Escanta makes me feel way better about keeping that hand. So now we're going to have Escanta turn 2, and then we're going to be able to start our ramp, get Teferi going. Based on the avatar and that first thing out, looks like this guy's going to be playing the white life gain, Ajani, cats, tokens, bullshit. Which is fine. It looks like he has a really slow start, and hopefully he doesn't have anything like cast out, which would absolutely ruin our day. This will give us a little more time to take a beating from aggro until we get the Turbofog going. I just hope we get the win before we have to start sitting through a billion triggers. Hopefully he doesn't play Anointed Procession. So we're playing that out this turn so that next turn we can have Teferi ready and we can start cycling away some of these lands. Yep, let's see. Okay, that's fine. Trying to just draw into relevant things here. That's not really what we're after. Alright, cool. We've got a fog effect. A little risky to go out there doing it this turn. In retrospect, I probably should have waited a turn and like taken that card draw. But if anything's going to draw us into the extra fog effects that we need, I mean, it's going to be Teferi and Chart a Course and Escanta. I feel reasonably confident about that anyway. But, you know, taking the beating for one extra turn in hopes of having a little more in hand so we can be a little more confident about playing Teferi, that might have been smart. We're going to have to sit through all these triggers, all this life gain. Okay.
We need to move quickly.
Okay, another fog effect. Cool. We're going to chart a course and draw some stuff. We're going to toss that extra Escanta. Alright, so now we've got 2 fog effects. I feel a lot better about that. And then we can put Gift on another land, and Teferi can untap for 4 mana's worth in the future. Yep. If you think this is slow, imagine watching it play out in real time. This guy just, oh god, the play was very slow. It dragged and it dragged and it dragged. And it might just be connection issues because I think there were server hiccups throughout the day. I don't know. I'm just saying it's not pleasant. But I'm glad that we're not seeing any anointed procession at the moment. So there's another fog. That's fine. Oh, nice. Well, we're certainly going to have that show up.
No time for a break.
And then let's have Teferi, or have Escanta dig for some things, and then Teferi can untap them. Karn can help dig to our useful cards here. In this case, I'm glad to just get them out of the way. And I'm honestly glad that the opponent gave us the basic land instead of the one that's going to come into play tapped. Gives us a little more we can do. And so in watching this, you can't help but get the impression that getting Teferi to his emblem is way easier in Turbofog than it is in traditional blue-white control. I guess that's the advantage of having a meta that is way too aggro-focused right now. You can just sort of dunk on them with these clown shoes kind of decks. When actual control does roll back in, things are going to be a little grim. But for now, might as well mop up those free wins, right? Okay, more fog effects to keep us alive.
Let's skip to the good part.
Are you certain of your decision?
Okay, so yeah, he's going to give us Chart a Course and put the extra turn in the exile, and we can just pull it back next turn with Karn's -1. Yeah. Then We're going to hang on to that land instead of cycling it because we have several fog effects, so I'm confident we're going to be fine on that front. And I would like to have a land to cycle once we hit Teferi's Emblem. This guy has built up so much life. Ugh. It's going to take a while to beat him down unless he gets the idea once we start comboing off. In that case, I played the one that has the cycle rather than the weaker fog effect because he saw us pick it out of Escanta. So I, used it to get rid of the information that he has. I don't want him to know that we have multiple fogs still in hand. Then he might use his mana for something else if his deck is in fact capable of something else.
You are removed from time itself.
And we're gonna take the Nexus here that was silvered away by Karn. The interface on the double mana'd lands is not super, I don't know, intuitive. Okay, that's fine. Now we take an extra turn here, exile a thing. We may not have another exile this turn, but we'll see. Or another extra turn. But we can exile a bunch of things and we can fog. Yeah. Chart a course. See if we can get another one that way. And if not, we can at least, continue to exile his stuff. We couldn't cast Karn's Temporal Sundering there, so we don't need it at the moment. Instead, we're going to cast Teferi and then exile some more stuff by using his draw, and he'll untap some lands so that we have another fog going.
Let's slow this. Hurry!
So now we have enough for a fog, and at end of turn we can cycle that land to exile something. Or you know what? No, we can cycle a land right now, get rid of a Johnny's Pride Mate before we have to sit through a billion triggers. Nobody wants that. Yep, we'll put out another fog. We've still got 3 in hand. Although we are, very ready to end this game. I don't think we're going to need those fogs. Certainly not that many of them. Silver, another Nexus. I don't think that we're going to be able to get rid of all his lands before the game is already over, and anything that he has probably costs well under the amount of lands he has. So it's more effective to go after his creatures than to go after his lands here. Take an extra turn here. Okay, and he gets it. And yeah, that is Bant Turbofog for you. Supposedly the best deck in Standard. At least as long as everyone's playing aggro. Hope you have fun with it. Take care.